The introduction of the Switch Lite seems to be one of, if not the final nail in the Nintendo DS's coffin. Standing for Developer's System or Dual Screen, Wikipedia can't seem to make up its mind, the portable system was originally released in 2004 and was succeeded by a range of updated versions, including the DS Lite, DSi, and the 3DS, selling over 150 million units and boasting what the academic community refers to as a shed load of games. While some titles like Mario Kart have made their way onto the Switch, albeit in an updated form, a lot of well-known and beloved DS games have been left behind and forgotten about. However, with recent reboots and sequels to popular favourites like Animal Crossing and Zelda, we think it's time to revisit some of our favourite games from the DS days to see if they could be remade, recreated, or even ported to the Nintendo Switch. Shall we look at some? I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 DS games we need to see on Switch. Number 10. Nintendogs. Pet simulator games are always a safe bet, especially as a way of placating children begging to get one for real, or adults who don't have the disposable income or wherewithal to look after themselves, let alone a pet. I somehow fall into both categories. Published by Nintendo in 2005, Nintendogs was an extremely popular title for the DS. While considered a singular game, it actually had 4 different versions: Dachshund and Friends, Lab and Friends, Chihuahua and Friends, and Dalmatian and Friends, all of which had different breeds of dog available on them, as well as an abundance of friends. You could wash and brush your dog sometimes for significantly longer than was necessary because you managed to miss a tiny area of dirt or suds that weren't even visible, yet the game still insisted, "We're there, it'll dry off in the sun, just give me my sparkly dog." A similar game has made it to Switch called Little Friends Dogs and Cats, developed by Hello Kitty, SimCity, and Medabot's publisher Imagineer Co., which is published as the Switch's answer and successor to Nintendogs. However, in its current form, it's a bare-bones replication of a beloved game. The selection of available breeds for Little Friends is also, pardon my French, piddly, with only 6 breeds available compared to the 19 across all of the Nintendogs games. Still, if we take Little Friends as a proof of concept, we think Nintendogs would make an incredibly popular addition even 15 years after its original release. Number 9. Soul Bubbles. This rather unsung puzzle game was developed by Mech and Sleep and published by Eidos Interactive in 2008, a year before they were acquired by Square Enix, by the way. A little fun fact for you. Touchscreens have come a long way since the days of being forced to use a small, breakable, and highly losable stylus. However, even though a stylus is available to buy as an additional accessory for the Switch, there aren't many games that seem to utilize it very much. On the DS, stylus controls were an integral part of Soul Bubbles. In the game, you take control of a red-scarfed air spirit who is tasked by an incredibly humble and not at all crazy old man spirit herder with finding the lost and suffering spirits from around the land and guiding them safely through to the spirit world. Cool. You do this by capturing them inside a bubble, which you draw around the spirits, and then use the stylus to blow air at the bubble from different directions to guide it around the stage, avoiding hazards that would cause it to pop and lose the spirits, presumably dooming them to an eternity of suffering in limbo. Oh god, E for everyone! For the Switch, a stylus would probably be the best option for a handheld mode, but the detached controllers could utilize the Wii-like motion controls. It's a cute puzzle game, all things considered, and is one that definitely deserves more recognition. Even if it doesn't land a Switch release, why not? Go out and hunt down a copy for the DS. We believe in you. Number 8. Pokémon Platinum. Released in 2007, Pokémon Diamond and Pearl were the original games to be based in the Sinnoh region. However, 2 years later in 2009, Pokémon Platinum launched as an updated version with a few notable differences. While Diamond and Pearl had either the legendary time Pokémon Dialga or the space Pokémon Palkia as its main legendary and mascot, Platinum instead featured the giant dragon centipede Pokémon Giratina. Along with slight tweaks to the storyline and a visual update to the game, Giratina was made the game's focus and capturable legendary, although the other two do appear in cutscenes. The coolest addition, though, was the Distortion World, home of Giratina, which was opened up by Team Galactic's attempt to create a new universe for themselves to rule. Adopting an MC Escher-esque approach, including upward flowing waterfalls and walking upside down, seeing this alternate universe recreated with the updated 3D graphics of the modern Pokémon games would really be something to behold. Now, with the release of Pokémon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee essentially remaking Pokémon Yellow, and Sword and Shield taking the series to new somewhat controversial heights, it does seem inevitable that a Sinnoh remake may arrive on Switch at some point, or at least have some of its Pokémon reintroduced. Just give me a Luxray, Nintendo, that's all I want. A rideable Luxray. Nintendo, I'm begging you, just give me a Luxray! Number 7. Fish Tycoon. There aren't a lot of casual games on Switch, and by casual I don't mean Stardew Valley, where you play it casually to unwind. I'm talking about real casual, which is what Fish Tycoon was. Essentially an interactive version of one of those realistic fish tank screensavers or that log-fire loop they put on Netflix at Christmas. Fish Tycoon had you looking after, well, a tank of fish, and had such exciting features as feeding them and selling them off in your pet shop for a profit so you could buy more food. The main goal was to breed the 7 magic fish of Isola, essentially fish from a mysterious island lagoon which needs its fish back in order to be restored to its former glory, but you mainly just sit there and watch the fish swim around and occasionally dispose of the ones that died after you forgot to check on your game for a few days, you monster. Okay, so Fish Tycoon may not have been the pinnacle of quality, but with a graphical update it'd make a very nice chilled out virtual fish tank Tamagotchi you could sit and stare at for a bit without any of that having to clean out the tank or have your home smell of fish food every time you knock the container over business. Oh, for God's sake. Number 6. Advanced Wars Dual Strike. Universally acclaimed by critics, 2006's Advance Wars Dual Strike was Intelligent Systems' third game in the Advance War franchise. It made very clever use of the dual screen technology of the DS, allowing the main battle to unfold on the bottom screen, with the top acting as a tactical overview of terrain and unit intelligence. There could even be up to 4 armies vying for victory at once, forcing the player to make full use of the game's turn-based tactical approach to gameplay. You take control of the defending forces of Omega Land to battle against the invading army of Black Hole, whose new leadership aims to gain eternal life by draining the life force/energy from the planet. This sounds far grittier than the relatively cutesy pixel graphics make it look. Oh, there's probably a whole troop of men who just died there. Can't wait for the write to their loved ones about their brave sacrifice for the cause minigame. Radical! Day 16. The supplies are running low. We only have a few tanks left after the air assault on our blockade. I don't know how many we've lost, but... Oh no. Oh, another one of my fish has died. Anyway, it's a really good game, and there hasn't been one for ages, so step it up, Nintendo. Do us all a favour. Number 5. Imagine Games. Somewhat different to the other entries on this list, Imagine Games as a franchise should absolutely make a new bid for the slightly naff Let's Pretend Games crown that's currently unclaimed on the Nintendo Switch. Their last game released in 2013, and 7 years later the Switch offers a brand new opportunity for them to go to town rebooting their games to recapture the imagination of little girls, or boys, everywhere. I can't help feeling that I'm doing most of the lifting here, Ubisoft. With games covering just about everything, including cooking, fashion design, vets, figure skating, acting, which we also have experience with, and babies, it would certainly corner the largely undercated children's games market on Switch. Also, the Switch store doesn't have nearly enough weird, barely licensed games on there at the moment, and I, for one, am missing out on the genuine Nintendo Game Store experience. Where are the millions of horse games, Nintendo? You've only got about 3 so far, you're letting the side down. Number 4. Animal Crossing Wild World and New Leaf. Hold on, how can Animal Crossing be on this list? You cry. It's already represented on the Switch, you cry, except even louder. Well, yes, we hear you, and no, you shouldn't shout at us. The new Animal Crossing game has a number of noticeable changes when compared to previous titles, boasting a desert island instead of a preset village, but alongside this new adventure, why shouldn't we be able to revisit New Leaf and Wild World? There are differences between New Leaf and Wild World, with Wild World not having Isabelle or the retail llama shop, being that it was released before New Leaf, but it still features Phyllis. Now, I don't care if you're nicer in New Leaf or city folk, stop muttering stuff under your breath, you rude woman. New Leaf lets you become a mayor too, a first for the series, and one we'd very much like to revisit if that's all the same to you, Mr. Nook. And as for Wild World, for a lot of players it may well have been their first introduction to Animal Crossing as a whole, and why wouldn't you want them to revisit that? Hey Nintendo? Putting a lot of blame on Nintendo in this list, let's blame them. Get them. Number 3. PictoChat. While this is not technically a game, PictoChat was a staple of the DS. Essentially a chat app that provided near endless entertainment as long as you had friends. You could still use it to draw lewd things and send them to yourself, and what more can you ask for, really? Although it wasn't an internet application, the wireless feature of the DS allowed you to talk between different DS systems within a 30-meter radius, furthering the good work done by mobile phones to encourage not talking to each other face-to-face while in the same room. It was a weird mix of a messaging app and MS Paint, allowing you to draw and write messages to people, like in Splatoon's hub world. And although bringing it back may mean you'd have to invest in a Switch stylus, the online capacity could allow friends to message hand-drawn versions of memes to one another from across the globe. Jackbox has made drawing and sending Wilsons to one another possible on a global scale, so will you be brave enough to give the people what they want, Nintendo? We'll see. Number 2. Elite Beat Agents. So you're a successful TV weather presenter that's just promised a picnic to your child, but wait! The forecast is non-stop rain. How can we fix this? That's right, by yelling and enlisting the Elite Beat Agents to help you change the very climate itself through the power of dance and a powerful desk fan. Obviously. This rhythm action title, released in 2006, is a mashup of insanely satisfying gameplay and, well, an insane story worthy of the mighty Parappa himself. The scenarios only get stranger and stranger, too. A casino magician taking on a gang of bandits, a retired baseball player fighting a fire golem, and an invasion from music-hating aliens. And you did all this with the stylus, tapping, sliding, and spinning in time to a range of cover songs, from Avril Lavigne's formative love ballad Skater Boy to David Bowie's Let's Dance and September from Earth, Wind and Fire. Always guaranteed to bring the sunshine out, that one. And since Nintendo have finally released an official stylus for the Switch, there's no excuse not to revive this classic, although we have an idea. Peter, help! There we go. That should sweeten the deal. Number 1. GTA Chinatown Wars. The 13th entry in Rockstar's famous and infamous Grand Theft Auto series, 2009's Chinatown Wars was the first venture onto the DS for the series and remains the highest-rated DS game ever, at least according to Metacritic. Like a typical GTA game, Chinatown Wars is an open-world title that allows you to wreak havoc on Liberty City, dealing drugs, making money, stealing cars, and running from the police. The drug dealing is also rather complex, with changing market conditions and geographic modifiers in play, causing profit to be calculated based on where you sell it and who you sell it to. It had Grand Theft Auto in the title, so it was inevitable, but the game came with its fair share of controversy, mainly relating to the drug-dealing metagame. Anti-drug charity Drugsline said that anything using drug dealing as entertainment is sending the wrong message. Stop spoiling our fun, Frank. While obviously you shouldn't do hard drugs because your mum loves you too much, it is rated 18 for a reason, so step off, yeah? People continue to petition both Nintendo and Rockstar to get some GTA representation on the Switch, and considering it can somehow sort of run The Witcher 3, I don't doubt that it's incapable. However, given Nintendo's family-friendly persona, it's a 50-50 toss-up as to whether they'd even allow Chinatown Wars anywhere near the Switch, even if it would be a perfect fit. And that's our list. What other DS games would you like to see make their way onto the Switch? Let us know in the comments below. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and while you're at it, why not support the things you enjoy by having a look at our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.